Administration officials said that Harris is not in Poland to make any deals, whether it be humanitarian aid or the transfer of military equipment, but she's really there to reaffirm Washington's commitment to help Ukraine. In that same vein, Harris was careful in an answer to another question not to accuse Russia of committing war crimes, since that might obligate the U.S. to give some sort of a response. President Duda, though, said very plainly it is obvious that Russia is committing war crimes in Ukraine, Neil.
Yeah, she seemed to be extremely tentative, guarded in the face of this. So it is unusual. Jackie, thank you very, very much. What does Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis make of this? A Defense Priorities Senior Fellow, military expert, served this country with great honor. Colonel, you know, we almost seem to be reacting with one arm tied behind our back. Part of it I can understand, and you're the military expert that I will never be, sir. But it seems like we're far more concerned about Vladimir Putin's reaction than our own proaction, you know, our proactive response. What do you make of it?
Yeah, you know, the harsh, cold, and I mean firm reality is that we have to make absolutely certain that we don't allow this situation to get escalated beyond the borders. There have been so many horrific things, the hospital in Mariupol, the scenes of destruction in Kharkiv, and now increasingly in Kiev, you know, and these emotional appeals by Zelensky, they all pull at our heartstrings, and everybody hates what Russia's doing. But we dare not push too hard that we actually escalate it, so that now that it's people in Poland who are suffering this, or Warsaw, or God forbid, the United States, if it gets into a nuclear escalation, that would be catastrophic. And we absolutely have to be cold-hearted about this in some respects, not to let it expand beyond. And we've already given them the maximum, you know, historic sanctions on their economy. We're now cutting off some of their oil, which is the lifeblood. And let me point out that cutting off oil to Japan was one of the motivations that caused them eventually to attack at Pearl Harbor. So there is some bad historical precedents here. We just got to be careful with it.
What would be an act that would go too far? Because a lot of people say that Putin is all bluster. For example, he said he would retaliate against those countries that are even declaring that they'll provide military assistance to Ukraine. Now, he still might, but so far no signs of that. So are we over fearing this Putin expected response?
Well, look, I mean, he was pretty clear from December onward that he would use military force in various ways in Ukraine, and he made good on that, as he had done twice before, as I've said, I think even on your show previously. So we dare not think that he's bluffing on this, because he's shown that, and right now he is demonstrating an even stronger point that he is absolutely committed to this, and he's not letting any of this global condemnation,
but committed in what way? Committed in what way, Colonel? In other words, how would he retaliate against, for example, NATO countries, particularly Poland, that are providing this assistance?
And specifically what he said.
How would he do that?
Yeah, just days ago, he said, when we were talking about this MiG-29 issue, he said anybody who provides air power that ends up being attacking Russian forces is going to be considered a belligerent, and we will attack their airfields. So Poland, that's the reason why they didn't just agree to let those MiGs fly in from Poland. They said, we'll send them over to Ramstein Air Base and you can deal with that, because they take that threat seriously. And again, 1 inch of a NATO country gets attacked, it's Article 5 and we're all 30 potentially in a war. And we just can't take that risk when Putin shows that he's willing to do nearly anything.
One final question. It's been raised a lot today that maybe the Russian military isn't as impressive as it was made out to be, maybe nearly as impressive as Vladimir Putin had hoped it would be. And that might give him pause. Forget about what NATO countries are doing, what we're sanctioning, that he's going to think twice about going into any country if he's having a devil of a time just making inroads in Ukraine, that his own military's performance might give him pause now. And that's the best news we could hope.
Yeah, without question. Yeah, without question, that's the case. Whatever he may have thought before, it has now been exposed absolutely. He's having a devil of a time conventionally with a country that didn't even have an army, basically, in 2014. And now that he's having such difficulties, there's no way conventionally he could match up with a 30-member NATO military alliance. Absolutely not. So that should give us some confidence that all of this claims about him wanting to recreate the USSR and roll west and stuff, he doesn't have the capacity, whatever he may want to do. So that should tell us that we can keep this contained. But if we do things like some of these people have been suggesting here on Defense One yesterday, that we set up, a no-fly zone light in the western part of Ukraine, that just risks having him drawn in. Because let me leave you with this last point. In the late 1990s, as still a KGB officer, Putin actually authored the concept of de-escalation, which included the potential using a tactical nuclear weapon if they thought that they were conventionally being hemmed in and were at risk. He's now president. He signed that into law in 2000. We cannot take a chance that he would do that in a desperate situation.
Well said, Colonel. Very well said. Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis, very good catching up with you, and a very good, counter read to a lot of stuff that, you have to be a little cautious on all of this.